Warning: the following review contains content that is unsuitable for those of the faint of heart and any person who hates to see an animal in pain. If you are one of these types of people, you should probably leave now. If not, continue on. However, if you aren't one of those said people and still get offended and or complain to me about the content, I am not to blame. Also, try not to complain on the many connections I make between this movie and Watership Down. Now that we are clear, please enjoy the review and comment at the end. What be happening, my peeps? Welcome to another thrilling episode of my show. ToonKritic's the name, and Toon's the name of my game. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person to say that I love animals. Animals are a large part of the world, just as much as we are, living out their peaceful lives in forest, one with nature, all that hippie talk about the earth, man. And, well, you get where I'm going with this. I'm also pretty sure some people watching this own a pet or two. My family and I have owned 9 cats and currently own 2. One on the left is Camilla and the other one is Legolas. I love them with all my heart. The cuteness factor of animals has always been a guilty pleasure for any human being, and many film companies, most notably Disney, have used animals as a foundation for live-action animated purposes. Movies like The Lion King, Bambi, Lady and the Tramp, Balto, the list goes on and on. There's also animated series like Looney Tunes, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Rocky and Bullwinkle, all those are animal related. Hey, even YouTube had jumped on the bandwagon of, if it's cute, it will sell. Admit it, YouTube, your site has a crap load of cute animal videos now. You might as well rename it to Kitty Cat Tube while you're at it. However, I'm not here to talk about that. Most of the animal movies you see today are all happy, cute, cuddly, friendly, romantic comedies. But then comes along a movie like The Plague Dogs to give us a pimp smack back to reality. Now, I'll admit, I have seen a wide variety of animated movies. More than I probably should have, it does wonders to my brain and all. But I've seen a lot of disturbing, messed up movies. One of which has scarred me so bad that mere mention of it still gives me a really awkward shiver down my back. But The Plague Dogs, I don't exactly know what I'm supposed to think of this. All I know for sure is that this is not a kid's movie. It makes American Tail look like the happiest movie in the world. That's how depressing this movie is. Heck, I'm not surprised this movie scares you into becoming an animal rights activist. It's gonna most likely disturb you. A lot. Believe me, if you've seen Watership Down, then that's just the tip of the iceberg. Rabid rabbits? Pfft, just wait till you see what we have here. Let's not beat around the bush anymore. This is The Plague Dogs. Let's get the backstory out of the way. The Plague Dogs started out as a novel written by Richard Adams, the same author behind Watership Down, in 1977. The film adaptation was made 5 years later and debuted first in the UK on December 3rd, 1982, and then in the USA on December 17th, 1983. Oh yeah, when I think of Christmas presents for the whole family, nothing says Christmas joy than a delightful tear-fest movie that'll make Chris Crocker flood his entire room with tears. This movie was directed by Martin Rosen, this being his second time in the director chair, and his first being with Watership Down. I'm sensing a coincidence here. By the way, you know your film is gonna keep kids in the theater when you show a dog drowning and dying in the first 5 minutes. Already we're off to a grand start, aren't we?
That's something no one should ever have to see.
From what I gather, the central story of Plague Dogs focuses on 2 dogs, Ralph, a Labrador mix voiced by Christopher Benjamin, and Snitter, a smooth fox terrier voiced by John Hurt, both of whom escaped from an animal testing/government research lab in Great Britain. Ralph has been drowned and brought back to life for reasons unknown, and if there is any, it would be a bullshit reason, and Snitter has had his mind experimented on for many months, also for reasons unknown. The 2 narrowly escape being roasted to death after hiding inside of an incinerator and head into the wild to try and survive. After attacking some sheep, the dogs are reported to the news as feral, man-eating dogs. And it doesn't help matters that when Snitter meets one of the people trying to capture them, who he thinks is friendly, that he leaps onto the gun the man is holding and sets it off, killing him. That could wear in a Wawa. What the hell? The The military soon joins the chase, and the scientists at the animal lab believe that the dogs are carriers of the bubonic plague, thus the title of this movie, Plague Dogs. Another bit of trivia, John Hurt voiced the main character in Watership Down as well, Hazel. Quite a few connections I'm starting to see. Speaking of connections, this is one of Brad Bird's earliest movies to work on. Who's Brad Bird, you ask? Well, you may know him now as the writer behind Ratatouille and The Incredibles. That's a really long way to go, I'd say. There are only a few characters worth mentioning, and those are the two, technically three, main heroes that got properly focused on. First up is Ralph. He's the old, cynical, grumpy dog, and with all the experiments that have happened to him, his view on the humans has been warped, seeing as he has never met a decent human. We don't see much development with him. I mean, it's there, but it's barely noticeable. I'm sure the book did a better job of showing him evolve, but as far as the film shows, you do care a bit about him beforehand, but the movie doesn't capitalize. It's like in a rally where the final runner doesn't even show up. If I had to pick a favorite character from this movie, I guess I would have to go with Snitter. His character is the most interesting out of all the others. Unlike Ralph, Snitter once had a master, but once his master died, he was sold to the animal lab. What really interested me was his psyche. All the brain tests that happened to him have fused his conscious and subconscious mind, giving him hallucinations of seeing his old master again, and sometimes he even has dreams while he's wide awake. With this, it adds to the mystery of his character. Even though Ralph and he are facing all these challenges in unfamiliar areas with the danger of death looming right behind them, Snitter remains hopeful they will survive, when Ralph does not. All these two really know is to not stop running, despite the confusion and quick loss of hope, which really adds to the drama and suspense. The other character I wanted to mention is the Todd. Not the cute, cuddly when we whittle kit Todd. I'm talking the sly, slick, cunning hunter Todd, voiced by James Bolin. Early on, Ralph and Snitter encounter him, and the three forge a somewhat rocky relationship. His performance is also interesting, and that I had no idea what the hell he was saying. Thankfully, God invented subtitles. The Todd helps Ralph and Snitter by teaching them how to hunt and survive in exchange for a share of their kill. Snitter understands how the Todd works, understanding his speech and the way he acts. However, by contrast, Ralph distrusts the way the Todd acts, unable to understand a single word he's saying. Oddly, I can see a lot of similarities between him and RJ from Over the Hedge, taking advantage of their new friends for their own needs, but in the end they redeem themselves. I won't spoil anything, but the Todd really does prove himself in the end. By the way, did I mention Patrick Stewart is in this? Yeah, I checked IMDb. He's in this movie as a character named Major, a character that I didn't catch or didn't recognize from this movie at all. I find it funny, almost all the movies I review, the side characters aren't even worth mentioning. But this time there's a reason. The villains are as translucent and one-dimensional as their shadows. They get phone calls, send out phone calls, and we do see with some of their testing on the animals, they're made to look all menacing and evil. Ooh, man is an abomination to the world and they should be slaughtered, blah blah blah, we get it. But yeah, these villains are pretty weak, seeing as we don't even care about anything they do. Is it weak enough to make it on a list in the future? Maybe. You'd think that a movie like this, just looking at the poster, would be in live action. Don't worry, I made the same mistake too. The visuals for this movie are very gritty and realistic. It's not often you see a movie look like this. However, it does share the same animation style as Watership Down. Yet another connection. Nowadays, a film like this could have been made into a CGI hybrid, but thank God it's not. I'm pretty sure it would be more gripping, more emotional, and better visually than Yogi Bear, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, and friggin' Marmaduke combined. Actually, come to think of it, call me crazy, but this really looks close to a Ralph Bakshi film. Visually, at least. Personally, the visuals are pretty good, I think. It sets the tone and the atmosphere, and with an animated movie setting, that can be quite a challenge. Watership Down managed to pull it off, and so did Plague Dogs, so I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, so what else can be said about Plague Dogs? Well, for the most part, you can definitely tell the animators put more than enough effort to make this look great. It's dark, grim, and depressive, but doesn't quite get to the sentimental level. I'd say it's well made, but at the same time quite disturbing. No other Disney film, other than The Black Cauldron, I think, has even come close to entering the darkness that Plague Dogs has. No, I don't mean that dark. Honestly, there is nothing funny with this movie, and if there is any humor, I must have missed it. Depressing movies like An American Tail and Secret of Nim add depth in terms of fantasy and humor to the depression. But here's where I find Plague Dog's biggest flaw. The sadness and darkness it emits is all it really has. It has little to no depth. But with the little that it has, from a different perspective, this movie could be viewed as a powerful emotional story of suspense, darkness, and survival. I'm quite surprised that just about everybody I know had no idea what this movie was, even after I showed them it. Plague Dogs gets an overall 2.5 out of 5 from me, which I would say is the lowest rating I've ever given for a movie and or game on this show. Despite its darkness and emotional depth and great visuals, in the end it doesn't stand up very well by today's standards. I wouldn't really recommend this for anyone. But if you are actually brave enough to watch this movie on your own, there is an uncut version of this up on YouTube. I'm telling you right now, this movie is going to be very emotionally draining. Make sure you have something happy on standby, because with a movie title like The Plague Dogs, you should already know what to expect. And don't worry, next time will be something you're really going to like. So with that being said, I am the Toon Critic, keeping you totally tuned for your viewing entertainment.